Welcome to Survivor Shift, moving from surviving to thriving. I'm Tammy Renee, your host, and today I'm really excited to introduce you to my new friend, Danielle Morelli. We met through the Porch Movement here in Douglas County, and she has spent a lot of hours helping people come together and lift each other and build relationships. She hosts her own porch, open porch game night in Carson City, and she's also the wife of a firefighter.
Yeah.
So she's got her hands in all kinds of good things. And she has also spent countless volunteer hours in youth ministries. And her heart is really big for the youth that are struggling and that need help. So can you tell us a little bit about your story, Danielle?
Yeah. Excuse me. Well, I grew up in a typical middle-class family, just a blue-collar family that worked really hard. But my parents, as great as they are and as much as they did to raise us well and to do the best with what they had, there was still a lot of unhealed things that my parents passed down. Experienced some neglect and some abuse and other areas of my life, which eventually led me, to be a really reckless young adult. It was just unhealed and just kind of a tornado, like this big storm wherever I went. And just through community and friendship and my faith, just being able to work through that trauma and that healing and stop living my life like I was just trying to survive day to day, but start living my life with intentionality and healing and hope and joy, like all of the things that come with that shift.
So what helped you? What changed it from where you're moving through life like a tornado, like you said, just kind of out of control? And
it was a bull.
Yeah.
China shop for sure.
So what helped you get from there, being that tornado? Mm-hmm. And obviously you had to slow down the storm, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you had to do something. So what got you from there to a place where you could hope and you could use your faith and all those things?
Yeah, I think some of it was I had to hit rock bottom as a very young adult. I had to make some very hurtful choices that caused a lot of pain to not just myself, but the people that I loved most. And from there was just, I felt like a prompting to reach out to community. And at that point I had left my faith, had very few real authentic friends. Like everything was just very servicey and competitive. And so eventually, reaching out to community and being able to come to a place where, I got to share, really confess in a way, like this is my life and this is the mess that I've made of it. And I don't know how to stop spinning and stop hurting people. So the community, faith, like those sorts of things, being able to be open about what I was going through and what I've done.
Oh, I love that. So that sounds like that was the first part of it, is being able to basically take responsibility for your actions and actually having eyes open to see what was really going on and the destruction that was happening with your tornado.
Yeah.
So I love that. So that honest self-evaluation.
Yeah.
And then reaching out rather than, so what do you think helped you to decide to reach out? You said you were prompted, but a lot of people would go into self-destructive mode. It's hard for us to acknowledge the hurt that we've caused.
Totally. Yeah.
So what do you think helped you be able to reach out instead of sink?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, it was, I didn't have a way to run from the damage that I had done. My life was such a mess. Like everything was such a wreck and I was living at the epicenter of it. And there was no way of getting out. Like I couldn't just skip town and then come back. And so it was having to really look at the damage that I caused, look that damage in the eyes, and realize that I actually can't run from this. Not without, there was this sense of if I don't address it, I may not live through it. And so there's that very real mortal sense of if I don't actually reach out for help, then I don't know if I'll be alive another week to be able to do that, because I was at such rock bottom that it was kind of you either reach out and attempt to clean up and attempt to put things back together and heal and get better, or I choose to leave. And hard choices.
Really hard choices. So I think there are a lot of youth especially that get to that point, and it is very intimidating
Totally.
to face that But so you have faced it and you reached out to community. Tell us some of the steps that happened, and then we'll talk about the aftermath of you reaching out.
Yeah, I think for me, some of those steps, when it came to like actually reaching out for community, I don't know where this belief came from. I don't believe that I was responsible for this belief. I am a woman of faith, so I do believe that this belief came to me supernaturally. I was kind of aware that I was making choices out of things that were done to me as a kid, that I didn't just end up as this like reckless, hurtful young adult, but that my trauma was, and even my mental illness was like top tier, uncontrollable. And I had to make the choice through that supernatural prompting I felt, to feel like I deserved life and to feel like I deserved the chance that everybody else I knew had. And that was the chance to get better, and the chance to love my life, and the chance to wake up and look forward to what 5 years from now has, instead of feeling like I was just that bull in a china shop, and like everywhere I touched and everywhere I went turned into pain and heartache.
Right.
So I felt like I just deserved better. And I don't when you're at rock bottom,
you don't feel like you deserve.
No, that's not a thought that I believe came from me. So,
but what a beautiful message. I think, when we're at rock bottom, if we hit that point, to remember, or just to believe, or even hope that maybe we deserve, something better than where we're at. Yeah. What a motivation. What a motivation for going ahead and reaching out. I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Absolutely.
Step.
I think it's so important to, especially now, if I could go back and just like hold my younger self, I would start surrounding her with community that already had that belief that she deserved better, and that she had more potential, and that she could stop and she could collect herself and start over, essentially. Right. Because that kind of authentic, caring community, it feels like it's hard to find, but it's just like the most precious jewel when we have it, to have people that believe that you deserve life, you deserve dignity, and you deserve the chance at hope and love and all of those beautiful things.
Oh, wonderful. And we're not a sum total of our actions.
Right.
I mean, we're responsible for actions, but we're not
totally.
a sum total of our actions. We are unique individuals. And as much as, your gifts are different than mine, and your weaknesses are different than mine, but we are all deserving of a better life, and a life that we can thrive in.
Yes.
Right? And enjoy. So what happened after you reached out? You found the courage and the hope to be able to reach out. And then tell us a few more of those steps to get you to a life that you could thrive in.
Well, not too long after I reached out, I got connected to a counselor. And I've been with that incredible counselor for, I think, 7-ish years now. I think the timeline is a little off because of all of the healing that's happened. Right. But it was finding somebody that would sit across from me that had a very trained, shock-proof face. So I could say anything, everything that I've done, everything that I'm feeling, and process through things. And I found, it was through that I discovered more trauma that I had, as what kind of happens as you open the layers of the things that have happened to you. So I finding healing and being able to say truly, like, this is what happened to me when I was a kid. This is how this affected my whole life. This is what I've done because of it. And this is who I feel like I am because of that now. But then even through that, through the church that I connected with when I came back to my faith, I was very slowly being surrounded by community that actually cared, that didn't want to see me as the sum of my actions, but it didn't see me as broken either. They didn't look at me like I was a victim of my circumstance, but they also wouldn't let me continue in this like thought process of, oh, I've just ruined so many lives. I'm just a victim. I've hurt so many people. How can I come back from this? Like, I had community that deeply cared about how I thought about myself, that cared about me processing and working through the hardest of the trauma, and helped me learn. I think like dignity is such a good word for this, because I think sometimes victims that have been sexually abused, they feel like there's a lack of dignity for us because it was taken from us. That we didn't have that choice, right? And it's not something that we can easily replant and water and harvest one day. So I had people in my life that were hearing my story and reminding me that I deserve dignity And it was like so empowering to be able to hear that and say, okay, well then I can do the hard work and I can make sure I don't hurt anybody else like I have been.
Right.
And that one day when I have kids, that they will never have to suffer through what I had to go through.
Right.
And things like that. Yeah.
I love that. This community, this supportive community, they weren't trying to fix you.
No.
They were helping you find you, right?
Yes.
Find your worth and find your dignity that got stolen from you at a young age.
Yeah.
I love that. So are there other elements to your healing process that you feel like would help somebody else that's struggling, that might be hitting rock bottom right now?
I would say, if there was anything else for somebody that's hitting rock bottom, I think a couple of things I wish I would have done, which some of the surfacey things are like disconnecting from social media and going to connect with the person.
Oh, there you go.
Because that, I think part of social media kind of kept me down in the low, but I really can't stress, like, even calling your surface friend, even calling somebody and being honest about, I'm not okay. And I'm really in a place where I'm about to make some really reckless or permanent choices about my life. Usually when we're that honest, I can't think of a situation where I haven't been that honest and somebody in my life hasn't had like the red lights go off and come to help. I think that like truly being honest about where we're at with people in our lives helps cultivate honesty and authenticity, but it also helps surround us with a community that genuinely cares.
Right. So really the ball is in our court.
Yeah.
The ball is in our court. We have to be able to reach out and then accept what kind of help there is or what kind of community.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't get to move from surviving to thriving just naturally. That's something we have to work for.
Yeah.
And it sucks because usually we're not the people that put us in the place to survive.
Right.
Usually it's other people that put us there.
Right.
But it is our job to work on reclaiming ourselves and finding our worth and our dignity so we can start thriving in life.
And for me, I found that that's really empowering. It reclaims my dignity. If I would have had somebody come and fix me and be able to erase all the mistakes, I think I would have never felt worthwhile.
Right.
I think working for it and accomplishing it and realizing that I do have control, because like you said, as a sexual abuse victim, you feel powerless. And so remembering that you are in control. So I guess that's the important thing to remember for people that want to help. Don't fix.
Yes.
Offer community, offer support, and believe in them. Yeah. And not treat me like you said, we're not broken.
Yeah.
We're hurt, we're struggling, but we have worth, and we can heal, and believing in that.
Absolutely. Find people that champion you.
Yes.
That is, I know it's a lot easier said than done, but it's the people that champion you that are like deserving of being in the room with you while you're working through the stuff.
So some of the people I know, they have a hard time believing the positive if the people around them are saying, good job, you can do this, you can do this, and they have a hard time believing that. Did you ever struggle with believing that you were of worth?
Oh my gosh, I think my counselor is just truly, she is just what it feels like the best that God has to offer among humanity. Because there was, I think the first couple years, like I felt like I wasn't worth the work. I felt like I wasn't worth the medication. I wasn't worth, I just wasn't worth it. I wasn't worth my position in ministry and all of these things. But there was a metaphor that was not so much a metaphor, but a vision so much that a friend had given to me of like, because I was seeing myself as still this like young adult that is just covered in broken glass. And anytime I tried to get close to somebody, I was cutting people, and I just felt just this wreck. Right. But a dear friend of mine helped me. Like, she told me to go look at some of my baby pictures, which I've never had anybody do that because childhood was kind of traumatic for me. So I don't tend to want to revisit that. But this assignment of going to look at my baby photos and seeing, no, I was once the most beautiful, precious little babe, just like anybody, right?
Right.
And then that little babe deserves.
Oh, I like that.
That little girl deserves healing, and that little girl deserves safety. And that little person, they deserve all of those things. So in the moment when I didn't feel like I was worth it, there was very much this internal metaphor of I have to do this for little me. Yeah. Because little me didn't deserve that, but she sure does deserve a life that's worthwhile,
Right.
full of love and healing and community and passion. So yeah, it was, when it's to rock bottom, remember, like, it's hard to remember, but it's essentially just remembering that you're worth it. Yeah. Revisiting that you weren't always the person that got abused, and you never deserved it, but the little person of you is always worth it, I think.
Yeah, I think that helped me a lot, getting in touch with the little girl in me. Because then, if you see a little 5-year-old, at the park or something, they're just adorable, and you just want to hold them. And if they get hurt, you want to hold them and do all those things. But it does help. That's a good reminder that can help us kind of reclaim our value, I guess, and our authentic self as well. I love that. So all the hard work you've done, I know you've summarized it and made it look pretty simple, but I know it's been really hard work. Totally. And you've come a long way. And honestly, what I feel like is a short period of time. Is it worth the work? Tell us about your life now, the blessings, and how it is worth not giving up when you were at rock bottom.
I'll probably, I just feel so emotional even thinking about that question. Because, I have, even just recently, there's just been a lot of grief in my life, like lots of things that have been hard to hold and hard to share the burden of. And that's even just recently. But this, like the formality of practicing gratitude, of looking at like 21-year-old me, who was truly just making horrible choices in every aspect of my life, and looking at that young woman and just you would have no idea the joy. You would get married one day. You would have a church home one day, that you're going to have best friends that come and when you can't get out of bed, they open your front door and they make you breakfast. You're going to have a family that someday gets it. And you're going to be healed enough to be able to feel like you can set boundaries in your life and you can take back control. I wish I could look back and tell her those things, because it was always worth the work. There was so many times in counseling where I think I went maybe a couple of years where I just was exhausted to the core of me, because it was every week revisiting something, and every week learning something, and every week being committed to working on myself like I was renovating house. Yeah. And that, it's not really easy to have like a kitchen renovation and then just stop it for a few months without a kitchen. Right. So I had to do that work, and it has always been worth it. I think it always will be worth it. Even in the midst of my grief now, I know that what's on the other side of working through the grief and the emotions that I have. So it's going to be worth it. I'm going to be back living this wide open, spacious life. With a bit more wisdom and a bit more humility, with stronger community, and I think a more authentic connection to myself, because I gave myself the dignity and said, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this because I deserve it. Right. Yeah. Because you deserve to. I like that wide open spaces. Yeah. Like back into the wide open spaces. Mm-hmm. So if you had one message, you've given a lot of them, but if there's one specific message that you would want to share with anybody that is struggling and hitting rock bottom right now, what would that be? I would say, be brave enough, find the courage in any way possible, find the courage to find your people. Oh, that this life is really hard. To do it without faith is hard. To do it with faith is hard. It feels like our time on earth can just be this in-between time of struggle. Right. But it's the people in our lives, and the community that listen to us, and the community that cares for us, that if I didn't have that, I am positive I would still be surviving. That I don't even know if I'd be alive enough to survive, but I don't think that without community, I would have been able to shift at any point in my young adult life into thriving. Wonderful. And so it's find the courage to find community. Yeah. I love that. And that's also a message for people that want to help. Yeah. That have somebody that's struggling to be a cheerleader, be a champion for them. Yeah. That they can do it, and, and help where you can, and just mostly encourage them to find their healing path. Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Danielle. This has been wonderful. I've
really enjoyed our visit and look forward to more visits with you
Thank
as
you.
well. Thank you for watching Survivorship. I'm Tammy Renee, your host, and you can see more at buildonthelight.com.